My name is Mary. I never had a real home. I cannot remember a time when life was simple or safe. When I was very young, my parents argued almost every night. Their voices filled the small house with anger. They shouted until my head hurt. Sometimes my mother left and slammed the door. Sometimes my father walked out, but they always came back only to fight again. I used to curl up in the corner, cover my ears, and whisper to myself. I did not understand why they were so angry. When I was 8 years old, my mother left and never came back. My father told me she did not love us, but in my heart, I thought she was just tired, maybe too sad to stay. She did not even say goodbye. After that day, my father was not the same. He began drinking all the time. He forgot to buy food. He stopped cooking. He no longer went to work. Most of the time, he just sat in the dark, staring at nothing. I tried to help, even though I was only a little girl. I cleaned the small room where we lived. I made weak tea with sugar and hot water. I washed my clothes in a bucket, but I could not do everything. My father hardly looked at me. He never smiled. And then one morning when I was 10, I woke up and found that he had gone too. There was no note, no food, no money. He just disappeared. I waited all day. I sat by the window at night, but he never came back. For a while, I stayed in the small room. It was cold and dark. I had no lights, no heat, no water. I ate dry bread from a shop nearby. I drank from a tap behind a building. A few days later, the landlord came. He said, "You must leave. You do not pay rent." I begged him, but he turned his head away. I packed the few things I had into a small bag, a broken jacket, a towel, an old notebook. That was everything. I started walking. I had no place to go. My feet hurt and my stomach growled. After hours of walking, I found a bench in front of a clinic. I sat down and leaned against my bag. I wanted to cry, but was too tired. That night was cold. I woke up many times. The street was noisy with cars, dogs, and people. I was scared, but I had no home. The next morning, I wandered again. I found a park with a little roof near the gate. When it rained, I sat under it. I began singing to myself. I do not know why, but singing made me feel less cold inside. I sang a song I remembered from school. I had always liked singing, though nobody really listened before. That day, a woman walked her dog past me. She stopped and said, "You have a sweet voice." She dropped a small coin into my hand and walked on. That was the first kind word I had heard in many days. After that, I sang every day. I sat near the bus stop, the market, or the tea shop. I sang old songs and new ones I wrote in my notebook. Some songs were sad, some were about hope. People sometimes dropped coins into my cup. Some ignored me. Some even laughed at me. But sometimes someone stopped and listened. I did not sing only for money. I sang because it reminded me that I was still alive. One rainy afternoon, I was sitting near a tea shop, singing a song about rain and dreams. My hair and bag were wet. I did not notice that someone was watching me. A woman with white hair, glasses, and a blue coat stood near the shop door. She carried a paper bag and listened for a long time. Then she walked toward me and asked, What is your name? I looked at her shoes. Her voice was soft, so I whispered, Mary. She asked if I lived nearby. I shook my head and told her I slept in the park. She did not laugh. She did not walk away. She said, would you like to come with me for tea? I hesitated. I was afraid, but she looked kind, and I was cold and hungry, so I nodded. We walked to a small house at the end of the road. Red flowers grew by the gate. Inside, the air was warm, and it smelled like bread and old books. She made hot tea with milk and gave me bread with jam. I ate so fast I could hardly breathe. She sat across from me and said, my name is Clara. I used to teach music. You sing with true feeling. I looked down and said, I just sing what I feel. Clara smiled and said, that is the best way to sing. She gave me a towel to dry my hair. Then she told me I could sleep on her sofa for one night. That night, I slept without cold wind, without fear. It was the best sleep I had in weeks. The next morning, Clara asked me to sing again. I sang one of my songs from the notebook. I closed my eyes and let my voice out. When I finished, she had tears in her eyes. She said softly, you have a gift. I stayed with her for a few days. She showed me how to play simple notes on her old keyboard. She helped me shape my songs better. Then she told me about a small event at the local hall where young people sang or read poems on Sundays. She said, you should go and let people hear your voice. I was nervous, but I agreed. That Sunday, I wore clean clothes Clara gave me. I brushed my hair. For the first time in years, I looked in the mirror and almost cried. I looked like a normal girl, not a street child. At the hall, about 10 people sat in the chairs. My legs shook and my hands felt cold. I held my notebook tight. When my turn came, I walked to the front. My mouth was dry, but I started singing. My voice was small at first, but then grew. I sang about being alone, about waiting to be seen, about cold nights and warm dreams. When I finished, the room was silent. Then someone clapped. Then two more. Soon everyone clapped. Clara was crying, but she smiled at me. My heart felt big and full. That night, lying on her sofa, I looked out the window at the stars and whispered, thank you. Not to anyone in particular, just to the world. For the first time, I felt I was not invisible. The weeks that followed were the happiest of my life. Every morning, I helped Clara clean her little house. I washed dishes, folded clothes, swept the floor. After lunch, we wrote songs together. She played the keyboard and I sang. I had never felt so safe. One day, Clara said, there is a small radio station in town. They sometimes play songs from local people. Maybe they will play yours. I was shocked. Me? On the radio? She called the station and spoke to a man named Mr. Allen. He said I could visit on Tuesday and sing one song. I was nervous, but I agreed. Clara helped me choose a song called The Rain Still Knows My Name. It was about cold nights outside and about hope, even when everything feels broken. The night before, I could not sleep. I walked back and forth in the living room, holding my notebook close. I thought about the park, the wet roads, and the old bench. I remembered the nights I cried into my jacket. Now I was going to sing in a real room, into a real microphone. The next morning, I wore a blue dress Clara gave me. We walked together to the small yellow radio building. The walls had pictures of singers. I sat in the waiting room, hands in my lap. My heart beat fast. Finally, a man with glasses called my name. Mary. I stood. My legs were heavy. Inside the studio was a big microphone. Mr. Allen smiled kindly and said, "Don't be afraid. Just sing like you always do." I closed my eyes, breathed deep, and sang. I poured all my heart into it. When I finished, the room was silent. Then Mr. Allen said, "That was beautiful. Thank you, Mary. We will play your song tonight." Tears filled my eyes. That night, Clara and I sat by the radio. When Mr. Allen introduced me and played my song, I almost could not believe it. My voice was out in the world. Clara hugged me. I cried, not from sadness, but from pride. For the first time in my life, I was proud of myself. The next day, people in town recognized me. A woman said, "I heard your song last night. It made me cry." A man waved and shouted, "Good job, girl." I smiled, surprised to be seen in a good way. 2 days later, Mr. Allen called again. He said many listeners liked my song and wanted to know more about me. He invited me for an interview. Clara told me, "Just speak from your heart." At the interview, Mr. Allen asked simple questions. I told him about the nights with no home, about how singing kept me warm inside. Afterward, the station phone rang nonstop. People said I reminded them of their daughters, or that my voice gave them hope. I cried as I listened. I never imagined strangers could care about me. A week later, a woman named Sophia came to Clara's house. She worked at a community center and had heard my song on the radio. She invited me to join a youth music group. At first I was shy, but Clara said, "This is your next step." At the center, children played guitars, sang, and laughed. I stood quietly in the corner until Sophia asked me to sing. I closed my eyes and sang a small song. The room went silent. When I finished, everyone clapped. A girl whispered, "You have magic in your voice." From then on, I came every afternoon. I made friends, learned new songs, and sang in front of more people. Slowly, my fear became strength. One Friday, we held a small concert in the town square. I wore a white dress. The lights were bright. My hands shook, but when I sang, the world quieted. People smiled, some cried. Afterward, strangers told me my voice gave them hope. That night, back at Clara's house, I said, "Thank you for seeing me. No one did before you." She held my hand and said, "You were always there, Mary. You just needed someone to believe." When I was 16, everything began to change. At the center, we sang for children, old people, and at small events. People clapped and thanked us. One day, Sophia called me into her office. She said, "A music teacher from the city heard your voice. She wants to meet you." Her name was Mrs. Ray. She taught music to poor children. Clara smiled and said, "You should go. This is your dream." I was scared, but I agreed. I took an early bus to the city. It was big and loud. I held my notebook tightly. At the center, Mrs. Ray greeted me kindly. She asked me to sing. I sang a song about home. She nodded and said, "Your voice is full of truth. Join our class." I stayed a week, sharing a room with a girl named Hannah. She was quiet but kind. Every day we practiced songs and learned to sing with strength. One evening, a guest from a TV music program visited. She asked me to sing my radio song. I sang with all my heart. When I finished, she said, "Would you like to sing on TV?" The show was called New Voices. It was small but real. I wore a clean blue dress and held my notebook. On stage, I sang a new song I wrote. Someone saw me. It was for Clara, for Sophia, for anyone who ever felt invisible. When I finished, the host thanked me. Afterward, people called the center, asking about me. A music school even offered me a scholarship. I called Clara from the office. "They want me to go to music school." She laughed and cried. "I told you, little bird, you were born to sing." I moved to the school and studied hard. I missed Clara's tea and warm kitchen, but I knew this was my path. After a year, we held a big concert. I sang a song called "I Still Remember." It was about the old bench, the rain, the fear, and the light I found. The hall was full. As I sang, I saw Clara in the back row, wearing her blue coat. She was crying. Afterward, I ran to her. We hugged. She whispered, "You did it." I said, "We did it." Months passed. I sang at schools, small shows, even appeared in a newspaper. I was still poor, still afraid sometimes, but I was not invisible. One morning, I saw a little girl sitting alone with a broken bag. She looked cold. I gave her a sandwich. She whispered, "Thank you." I said, "You are not alone." Later, I wrote in my notebook, "Kindness saved my life. One voice saved me. Now I want to be that voice for someone else." I still sing. I still write songs. Now I help teach young girls at the center. Some are quiet, scared, but full of hope. Every time I sing, I remember who I was, a girl with no home, with cold hands, who only had her voice. And now, when I walk onto a stage, I look at the crowd, take a deep breath, place my hands on my heart, and I sing for Clara, for myself, and for every girl still waiting to be seen. We all face hard times, but stories like this remind us that no one is truly invisible. Thank you for listening.